Peace is not something that suddenly disappears one day. It doesn't vanish without permission. It fades because little by little we give it away. We hand it over in moments when we feel triggered, challenged, questioned, or disrespected. We convince ourselves that reacting is necessary, that silence means losing, that responding immediately proves strength. But the truth is, most of the time, reacting has nothing to do with strength. It has everything to do with impulse. Here's what's interesting about reactions. They feel powerful in the moment, but they rarely lead to powerful outcomes. A reaction is fast, automatic, emotional. It bypasses intention. It bypasses purpose. And when we live our lives reacting to everything around us, we're no longer in control. We are being controlled. Think about how often your peace is interrupted not by big life events, but by small moments, a comment, a message, a look, a tone, a post online. None of these things have real power on their own. The power comes from the meaning we attach to them and the reaction we choose to give. The moment you react without thinking, you've allowed something external to dictate your internal state. Strong leaders, grounded individuals, and fulfilled people all share something in common. They don't give equal weight to every stimulus. They understand that not every problem is theirs to solve, not every opinion requires a reply, and not every challenge deserves their energy. They pause, they observe, they choose. There is a difference between responding and reacting. A reaction is driven by emotion. A response is guided by values. Reactions ask, how do I feel right now? Responses ask, who do I want to be in this moment? That pause, even if it's only a few seconds, is where peace lives. In that space, you reclaim control. We've been conditioned to believe that immediate responses equal confidence, that defending ourselves instantly proves we are right. But real confidence doesn't rush. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't shout to be heard. It knows when to speak, and more importantly, when not to.
You choose not to react.
You protect something far more valuable than your ego. You protect your focus, your clarity, your energy. You stop feeding situations that thrive on attention. You stop participating in cycles that were designed to drain you. Consider this. Many conflicts don't end because they are resolved. They end because one person decides not to continue. That decision is not avoidance, it's leadership. It's the ability to see the bigger picture and refuse to sacrifice long-term peace for short-term satisfaction. Not everything deserves access to you. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they're right. Just because something feels urgent doesn't mean it's important. When you react to everything, you dilute your impact. When you choose carefully, your words and actions carry weight. Peace is protected when you learn that silence can be strategic. Walking away can be powerful. Doing nothing can sometimes be the most intentional choice you make. This doesn't mean you suppress emotions or ignore real issues. It means you stop letting impulse lead. Ask yourself a simple question before reacting. Will this matter tomorrow? Will this move me closer to the life I want or further away from it? Most of the time, the answer is clear. Protecting your peace begins with discernment, with understanding that your energy is finite, that your attention is valuable, and that your reaction is a choice, not an obligation. When you stop reacting to everything, you start living with intention. You move from being controlled by circumstances to being guided by purpose. And in that shift, peace doesn't just survive, it strengthens. Because the moment you realize that not everything deserves a reaction, you take back ownership of your inner world. And that is where real peace begins. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Many people think boundaries are about pushing others away, about being cold, distant, or difficult. But that belief misses the point. Boundaries are not built out of fear. They are built out of clarity. They exist not to control others, but to protect what matters most. Here's the truth most people never hear. If you don't define your boundaries, someone else will define them for you. and they will usually define them in a way that benefits them, not you. This is how peace slowly erodes. Not through dramatic events, but through constant overextension, silent resentment, and unspoken exhaustion. When you say yes to everything, you aren't being kind. You're being unclear. And unclear behavior invites confusion, dependency, and eventually frustration. Boundaries remove that confusion. They tell the world where you end and where others begin. They are not walls that isolate you. They are guidelines that allow healthy connection to exist. People who respect themselves understand this. They know that self-respect isn't loud. It's consistent. It shows up in what you allow and what you don't. Every time you tolerate behavior that drains you, you send a message not just to others but to yourself about what you believe you're worth. Setting boundaries will feel uncomfortable at first. That's because you're changing patterns. You're interrupting expectations that may have existed for years. And when expectations change, resistance appears. Not because you're wrong, but because others were benefiting from your lack of limits. This is where many people retreat. They mistake discomfort for danger. They confuse guilt with wrongdoing. But guilt is often a sign that you're growing beyond a version of yourself that was designed to please others at your own expense. Boundaries are not about control. You cannot control how people react to them. Some will understand, some will adjust, some will walk away. And that's not a failure. That's information. Boundaries reveal who values you for who you are, not just for what you provide. There's something powerful that happens when you begin to honor your limits. You stop showing up exhausted. You stop resenting the people you care about. You stop feeling torn between what you want and what others expect. Peace returns when alignment is restored. Think about how many conflicts come not from disagreement, but from unmet expectations that were never communicated. Boundaries prevent that. They replace assumptions with clarity. They create space for honesty. And honesty, while sometimes uncomfortable, is far more peaceful than constant self-betrayal. You don't need to explain your boundaries to everyone. You don't need to justify them with long stories or apologies. This doesn't work for me is enough. Clarity doesn't require permission. The strongest boundaries are not enforced through anger. They are enforced through consistency. When your words and actions align, people learn quickly what is acceptable. When they don't, chaos follows. Protecting your peace means understanding that access to you is a privilege, not a right. Your time, your energy, your attention, they are finite resources. How you allocate them determines the quality of your life. When you live without boundaries, you may feel needed, but you will rarely feel fulfilled. When you live with them, you may disappoint some people, but you will no longer disappoint yourself. Boundaries are not the end of connection. They are the beginning of healthier ones. They allow you to give FR a place of strength, not depletion, from intention, not obligation. And when you honor your boundaries, you send a powerful message to yourself and to the world that your peace matters. And anything that truly matters deserves protection. Most people don't struggle because they don't care. They struggle because they care too much about the wrong things. They care about being liked. They care about being accepted. They care about being approved of. And in that pursuit, they slowly lose clarity. They say yes when they mean no. They stay silent when they should speak. They adjust themselves to fit expectations that were never aligned with who they truly are. People-pleasing often disguises itself as kindness. It looks polite. It sounds reasonable, but underneath, it's driven by fear, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of conflict, the fear of being misunderstood, and fear, no matter how well-intentioned, is a poor foundation for peace. Clarity, on the other hand, is grounded. It doesn't rush. It doesn't perform. It doesn't bend itself into shapes just to belong. Clarity begins with knowing what you stand for. And when you know what you stand for, decisions become simpler, even if they aren't always easy. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When you avoid clarity, you don't avoid pain, you postpone it. Confusion builds, expectations pile up, resentment grows quietly. And eventually, what could have been a simple, honest conversation becomes a complex emotional burden. Being clear does not mean being harsh. It means being honest early, before frustration turns into bitterness. It means saying what you can and cannot do, what you will and will not accept, what aligns and what doesn't. That honesty might create momentary discomfort, but it prevents long-term damage. Many people believe that being clear will cost them relationships. In reality, it filters them. Those who respect you will appreciate your honesty, even if they don't always agree with it. Those who rely on your silence for their comfort may resist. But peace doesn't come from being surrounded by people who benefit from your lack of boundaries. Approval feels good in the moment. It provides a quick sense of belonging, but it's unstable. Because when your peace depends on approval, it lives in the hands of others. And hands change, opinions shift, expectations grow. You end up chasing something that can never be fully secured. Clarity brings something approval never can. Self-trust. When your words align with your values, you no longer second-guess yourself. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop wondering if you should have said something different. Peace grows when your inner voice and outer actions match. There will be moments when clarity is misunderstood, when people label you as difficult, distant, or selfish simply because you chose honesty over comfort. This is where conviction matters. Not everyone will understand your choices, and they don't have to. Understanding is not a requirement for respect. Living clearly requires courage. It asks you to let go of the illusion that you can control how others see you. It asks you to accept that being true will sometimes cost you popularity. But popularity was never designed to bring peace. Alignment was. When you choose clarity, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop shrinking to keep others comfortable. You stop carrying the emotional weight of unspoken truths. And in that release, peace has room to breathe. Clear communication is not about saying everything that comes to mind. It's about saying what matters when it matters with intention. It's about respecting others enough to be honest and respecting yourself enough to not betray your values. You don't need everyone to agree with to move forward. You need to agree with yourself. When that happens, even difficult decisions feel lighter. Even tough conversations feel purposeful. Clarity is not cold, it's kind. Because it prevents false expectations. It prevents silent resentment. It prevents relationships built on misunderstanding. And when you choose clarity over approval, you gain something far more valuable than applause. You gain peace, not the fragile kind that depends on validation, but the steady kind that comes from knowing you are living in alignment with who you truly are. Most conflict doesn't come from a lack of intelligence or effort. It comes from misaligned priorities, from fighting battles that were never meant to be fought, from engaging in moments that satisfy the ego but starve the soul. We often believe that standing our ground means engaging every challenge that comes our way. But strength isn't measured by how many battles you enter. It's measured by which ones you choose. Every day, you are invited into arguments, disagreements, and tensions. Some are obvious, some are subtle. A comment that feels dismissive, a situation that feels unfair, a moment that challenges your identity or competence. And in those moments, the instinct is immediate, to defend, to correct, to prove. But instinct is not strategy. Winning an argument can feel satisfying. It can give you a temporary sense of control. But ask yourself what it costs. Does it bring clarity? Does it move you closer to what matters? Or does it simply keep you busy, distracted, and emotionally drained? Values act as a compass. They help you decide where to invest your energy and where to walk away. Without them, every challenge feels urgent. Every disagreement feels personal. And when everything matters, nothing truly does. Choosing your battles requires self-awareness. It requires the ability to step back and ask, why am I engaging? Is it to protect something meaningful, or is it to protect my pride? Is this about principle, or is it about proving a point? These questions create space between impulse and action. In that space, peace is preserved. There is a difference between standing up for yourself and standing in every fight. One is rooted in dignity, the other is driven by reactivity. When you engage from dignity, your actions are calm, intentional, and aligned with who you are. When you engage from reactivity, you surrender control to emotion. Many people confuse being right with being fulfilled. They chase correctness at the expense of connection. They win arguments but lose relationships. They prove points but lose peace. Over time, the cost becomes clear. Not every disagreement is a threat. Not every challenge is an attack. And not every situation requires your response. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is disengagement. Not because you are afraid, but because you are clear. When you choose battles aligned with your values, your energy becomes focused. Your words carry weight. People listen differently when you don't speak all the time. Presence increases when you're not scattered across unnecessary conflicts. This doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means having the right ones. It means speaking up when silence would compromise your integrity and staying silent when engagement would compromise your peace. Values-based decisions don't always feel good in the moment. They can feel lonely, they can feel misunderstood, but they are consistent. And consistency builds trust, both with others and with yourself. There will be times when walking away feels like losing, but losing an argument is not the same as losing direction. In fact, walking away from the wrong battle often brings you closer to the life you want. Peace is not passive. It is active discernment. It is the ability to say, this matters, and just as confidently say, this doesn't. That discernment doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you. When you stop fighting everything, you gain the capacity to fight for something, for your values, for your purpose, for the people and principles that truly deserve your energy. Choosing your battles is choosing your life, and when your actions are guided by values rather than ego, peace stops being fragile. It becomes resilient. We often underestimate how much our surroundings shape us. We like to believe that strength is internal, that resilience means remaining unaffected by what's around us. But human beings don't grow in isolation. We absorb cues from our environment constantly. What we hear, what we see, what we tolerate, and what we normalize. Over time, those cues don't just influence our mood. They influence our identity. Every environment sends a message. Some tell you to rush. Some tell you to compare. Some tell you to stay quiet. Others invite curiosity, patience, and growth. The challenge is that many of these messages are subtle. They don't announce themselves. They seep in quietly, shaping how you think, how you feel, and how you respond to the world. People often blame themselves for feeling drained, unfocused, or unmotivated without ever examining the environment they're operating in. They try to fix the internal without adjusting the external, but you cannot sustainably grow in a system designed to keep you distracted, depleted, or discouraged. Think about the conversations you're a part of every day. Do they inspire you or exhaust you? Do they revolve around possibility or limitation? Over time, repeated exposure to negativity doesn't just affect your mood, it lowers your standards for what you believe is possible. It creates friction between who you are and who you're trying to become. The same is true for habits and routines. An environment that rewards urgency over intention will constantly pull you out of alignment. When everything feels urgent, nothing feels meaningful. Peace doesn't survive in constant chaos. It requires rhythms that allow reflection, recovery, and focus. This is why high-performing teams, healthy cultures, and fulfilled individuals are intentional about their environment. They understand that willpower is finite, but systems are powerful. When the environment supports the behavior you want, discipline becomes easier. When it doesn't, even the strongest intentions struggle. Protecting your peace means making deliberate choices about what you allow into your space. That includes the media you consume, the people you spend time with, and the standards you accept. These choices aren't about control. They're about alignment. There will be moments when changing your environment feels uncomfortable. Distance may be required. Familiar patterns may be disrupted. But comfort and peace are not the same thing. Comfort keeps things familiar. Peace keeps things healthy. It's important to recognize that not every environment is meant to be permanent. Some are seasonal, they serve a purpose, then reach a limit. Staying too long can create stagnation. Growth often begins with the courage to acknowledge that what once supported you no longer does. This doesn't mean blaming others or creating conflict. It means taking responsibility. Responsibility for where you spend your time. Responsibility for what you tolerate. Responsibility for the signals you allow to shape your thinking. When your environment aligns with your values, something shifts. You don't have to fight as hard to stay focused. You don't have to recover as often. Peace becomes a baseline, not a reward. The environments we choose either amplify our strength or magnify our weaknesses. They either fuel clarity or create friction. And while you can't control every aspect of your surroundings, you can influence more than you think. Protecting your peace is not about escaping the world. It's about designing a life that supports who you're becoming. When your environment is intentional, your inner world follows. Because peace doesn't exist in isolation. It grows in the spaces you choose to stand in every day. Peace is not something you find at the end of a long journey. It is something you choose, moment by moment, through awareness, discipline, and intention. Throughout this message, one truth becomes clear. Protecting your peace is not about withdrawing from life, avoiding responsibility, or shutting people out. It is about learning how to live from the inside out. Every lesson points back to choice. The choice to pause instead of react. The choice to set boundaries instead of overextending. The choice to speak with clarity rather than chase approval. The choice to engage only in battles aligned with your values. The choice to shape your environment instead of letting it shape you. These are not dramatic decisions, but they are decisive. And over time, they determine the quality of your life. Peace requires courage because it often asks you to do the opposite of what feels natural. It asks you to be calm when provoked, honest when silence feels safer, and disciplined when chaos feels familiar. It asks you to trust yourself more than you trust external validation. And that kind of trust is built, not given. When you protect your peace, you begin to notice something powerful. You have more energy, more clarity, more patience. You stop living in constant reaction mode and start responding with purpose. Life doesn't become easier, but it becomes clearer. And clarity reduces unnecessary suffering. This is not about perfection. You will still stumble. You will still react sometimes. You will still find yourself in environments that challenge you. The difference is awareness. Awareness gives you the ability to course correct before damage becomes permanent. Awareness turns mistakes into lessons instead of patterns. Protecting your peace doesn't mean you care less. It means you care deeply about the right things. It means you stop wasting emotional energy on what drains you and start investing it in what builds you. Relationships improve, decisions become simpler, confidence grows quietly, and perhaps most importantly, when you protect your peace, you give others permission to do the same. You model what it looks like to live with intention, integrity, and self-respect. That influence is subtle, but it's lasting. Peace is not passive. It is practiced. It is defended. It is chosen. And when you commit to protecting it, you don't just improve your own life. You elevate the way you show up in the world. Because a person at peace is not weak. A person at peace is grounded, and a grounded person cannot be easily shaken.